Hello YouTubers, Paul here. So one thing I'd like to cover in this video is what kind of job you can expect to get with an East Asian Studies major. So that would, an East Asian Studies major would be Chinese major, Japanese major, Korean major. The name of the major might differ, depending, on what college you go to, but for me, it was collectively considered as East Asian Studies. So one of the things that you might get into, that I know some people have, is teaching English as a second language. You don't need an East Asian Studies major degree to teach English as a second language, but because, if you're, putting studies into, let's say, Chinese studies, and you go over to China, one of the things that you'll find out is that there's a huge market for teaching English. You'll find out a lot of people, are really excited to learn English. And, when I was in China, when I studied abroad there, a lot of people, wanted to learn English, and I actually did some tutoring jobs while I was there too. So that's something you could get into. I'm not really sure about, I've never been to Japan or Korea, but I assume that it's probably similar. So that's one thing. Another thing that potentially you could get into is possibly translating. You probably wouldn't get into it, as soon as you graduate. Probably because 3 years, or maybe it'd be 2 years, 3 years of language studies does not, guarantee you fluency. So probably not that. But obviously, if you, once you graduate, you're probably going to continue those language studies. And, for some people, translating jobs aren't even planned. It just kind of comes along. They already happen to be fluent in the language, and, it comes by sort of an opportunity. For me, myself, I actually want to get into translating. So that's one thing you can do. The field in itself, it's kind of a broad field. It's not like if you go to college for computer science, that automatically, equals software engineer as soon as you graduate. Not necessarily, but it's not, East Asian Studies major, it's not like that. There's so many things you can do because the language aspect of it, usually, as long as the job, I think, requires you to use the language, you can end up doing that. Like, I had a friend, I live in the East Coast, so I have a friend he was a Chinese major, and once he graduated, he ended up moving to New York City, and he got this job where he was some kind of intermediate, where he worked for some, clothesline, and he would call call another company up in China, and they would discuss, their product and stuff. So he was kind of an intermediate between the American side and then, So that, was one of the things. And there's a lot of different things you can, I think, do with an East Asian Studies job. So where can you get a job? Most likely the country where they speak the language. So if you're a Japanese studies major, you probably will, or a good chance that you'll end up going to Japan. Not necessarily that I don't know if you'd get a job right away. You might, do further studies, like getting master's degree, or doing a program where you teach English, or some kind of program where it kind of furthers your studies. I would say, if you live out in the middle of nowhere, especially where there's no Asian population, I would say you need to move. You probably won't be able to find anything. Where I live, it's not in the middle of nowhere. There's, a few, decently sized cities around where I am, but, it's not New York City either, and there's not really much of a market, which is why I plan to apply for a program to teach English in Japan in the near future. So you're not really guaranteed a job right away after. I wasn't. I graduated about 3 months ago. I still don't have a job. I'm still searching. And like I said, I'm actually planning to do a program in Japan teaching English. There are some people I knew, in the same degree as me that had, nice jobs lined up, but I don't know. I think I consider those a lucky few. I don't know. Maybe your experience might be different, and good. That's really great if you, were one of those people. So some of the jobs actually that I've done already related to my major is I've already done translating. So I was a Chinese major with a Japanese minor, which actually is kind of ironic because, at this moment I'm putting more focus on Japanese studies. I probably should have been a double major, but I've done translating in Chinese. But for me, I didn't just start Chinese when I, went into college. I started when I was 16. So by the time I got in college, I had already had about, 2 years, but experience. So, by the time I was, getting close to graduating, I already had about 5 years of Chinese. So, finding a translating job wasn't too bad. There were some, freelance opportunities. But, it wasn't too consistent, really. Probably some false expectations of, I would say, an East Asian Studies major, is, I think, a lot of people I know, and I don't remember if I had the same expectation too, but, a lot of them expect you to be, really fluent, in the language that, you're concentrating on, or focused on, just because you have that major, and that's, certainly not the case. I know a lot of people, a lot of people I know, they think that just because, I studied Japanese in college, that, oh, I'm really fluent and I can get any job I want. Well, that's not really the case. Like I said, just because you're going to be a major and you're doing undergraduate work, especially if it's undergraduate work, and you're just starting in college, it's most certainly not going to guarantee you fluency. It'll guarantee you, being able to have, good conversations. Obviously, you're going to learn reading, writing, listening comprehension. I would say that, by the time you graduate, you'll be comfortable enough to actually go to that country and, deal with everyday interactions, and, doing whatever it is you want to do. But I most certainly would not say that you are, fluent. I guess it depends because there's different, interpretations of fluency. But, just for me, I don't really feel like I'm necessarily fluent in Japanese. I don't know. I guess I'm more fluent in Chinese because I've studied that longer, but I think it depends really on your own definition. So yeah, I think, that pretty much sums up, basically what you can expect with the East Asian Studies major. I think it's a really rewarding field. I definitely really enjoyed, having that as a major. It was a lot of fun. And usually, during your college experience, I think usually you're expected to do study abroad. I know I was. And actually, I spent my first semester studying abroad in China. I think it was required for our department. I'm not sure if it's required for, all colleges and universities. Definitely, once you get into college and, if you pick East Asian Studies as your major, whether it's Chinese studies or Korean or Japanese studies, that's, your focus, I would definitely suggest, study abroad because, study abroad is really a good experience that opens your mind to a different culture. And, being in that environment where the language is spoken every day, it helps, your language, ability so much. When I went to China, I went in 2010, I had done at least 4 years of studying before that. But, I was only there for 5 months, and my Chinese progressed so much, just being able to be there every day. And it was really a good experience. I guess there's some people who go and it might not be the same. I think usually cases like that are people who usually only, hung around other foreigners while they were, in that country. So, alright, well, thanks for watching. Alright, if you guys have any further questions, just, leave a comment. And until then, じゃあまたね。